Okay, welcome to Bill and Ammon's Bogus Hangout. We've got a good crew already today. Start the day with, and have people introduce themselves. Doc?
Howdy, folks. Doc Sheldon here of Intrinsic Value SEO and Search News Central. Sitting at our place down in Mexico right now, enjoying some summer weather. Already dreading fall.
Terry?
Terry Van Horn, SEO Pros, SEO Dojo, development companies, international website builders. Been working on some PPC and looking at doing some programming with an old database of from a chat. Not having a lot of luck.
You're not bothered by the fall, are you? It's ice skating weather, right?
Oh, no, I look forward to the fall. And you know the times I've been out of the house this summer? I think 3 times. But it wouldn't matter. Winter or summer, I don't go out much. I need a good reason.
Yeah, like the Leafs.
Myself to be out there.
Tim?
Tim Calling, a Servant Chart web design and marketing. I'm enjoying the weather we're having right now, but it has gotten a bit warm some days. I'm not too far away from Bill and Doc geographically. Let's see. I would welcome the fall. Between now and then, we're likely to have even some hotter days. I just would like to get out of the wildfires.
Yeah.
But fortunately, I have no clients that are affected by that. So I used to have some you guys know, I used to have a non-medical home care company. We worried a lot about our home care clients when there were fires close by. That was a scary thing. So I'm glad I no longer have that responsibility. So,
well,
that's me.
Bill Slosky, author at SEO by the Sea, and I'm the director of SEO research at Go Fish Digital. I've just been busy lately blogging, not too much else today. Ammon?
Yeah, my name's Ammon, and I'm a spammer. This is Spammers Anonymous, right?
Only if it's Tuesday. Wait.
Yeah, I think now after that announcement, you can kick your anonymity goodbye.
Yeah, that's the trouble with an unusual name, you know. My parents obviously were thinking of keeping me on the straight and narrow. Boy, did they fuck up. Yeah, but let's face it, I think we're all a bit addicted to our particular industry.
It's never boring.
No, it's always changing.
Well, I guess never is a harsh way of putting it. It's rarely boring.
Yeah.
Yeah. It hooked me right from the start. You know, back in the 90s, I was always a strategy gamer. And yeah, right from the start, this was the ultimate strategy game. There's sort of no limits to what levers you can push and how far.
You know, it's funny. When I was in college, my favorite courses were, I mean, my engineering courses, which that's the field I was studying for, majoring in. But my favorite courses that were not career-oriented was psychology. I really enjoyed that. And I was lucky I had a great professor for 2 years running who really, we got some great discussions and experiments going on. And the psychology of marketing is, you know, you can't be bored there.
No. And exactly that. I mean, I've always been interested in psychology and what makes people tick, what makes people make the decisions they make. Because let's face it, people make some very odd decisions at times. We like to think that we're very logical creatures, But when I was a kid, my father ran a chiropodist's, and his shop was next to the hairdresser's. And he would be stood at the window sometimes swearing, "Those bloody women are hobbling past to get to the hairdressers again." And yeah, I mean, you know, literally some of these women were limping. Their feet were so bad, but they would still go to the hairdressers, not the chiropodists.
I saw somebody posted something yesterday on Facebook. It was a talk that some guy did on video, and it was an experiment that he did. He pulled a bunch of millennials together, deliberately of very divergent philosophies in terms of politics, and got them discussing and paired them up where you've got somebody who's ultra liberal with somebody who's ultra conservative, and then bring up the most volatile topics. And it was amazing how civil and open-minded and friendly their discussions were. But when you put that curtain, like social media, anonymity in front of them, these people are making physical threats and insults, and you know, I know enough. We all spend enough time on social media to see that all the time. And it's amazing the way that people will act when they think they're anonymous.
It's not just the anonymity, and this is where it sometimes goes wrong. Those conversations happen differently when they're in your own home as well.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, the problem with an internet discussion is everyone is sat in their own territory, in the place they feel comfortable with and feel they have to defend their views in. So it's a very defensive environment for each and every person.
Good point.
Now, people do things when they think they're anonymous that they wouldn't do if they knew that their mom was watching. That's almost a different topic.
Or call people names that they wouldn't have the gumption to try if they were standing face to face with him.
Right.
Yeah,
For me,
We've got a lot of that.
If they are anonymous and they're name calling, it doesn't have the same impact as if the other person knows who they are and they are being called names by that person.
Yeah.
It's more hurtful.
Yeah.
probably 90% of the trolls out there wouldn't say to your face what they say on the internet.
No
you know
way.
why? Because there'd be a good chance their face would get filled with knuckles.
Well, not only that, but people often pick on their own weakness. This is something I noticed even as a kid. The kid with the big stick out ears will take the mickey out of other people's ears. He's conscious of ears because he's conscious of his own. And a lot of the times those internet trolls are calling people the things they feel about themselves.
I want to bite my tongue and refrain from making any U.S. political statement.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, then we can talk about religion. How about that?
Just somebody came to mind. I can't help myself.
Or worse yet, we could start talking about which is the best text editor for programmers or hosting company for websites. Those turn into nearly religious wars, flame wars.
But there certainly is, that's actually a really good example, Doc, is that often it's the not very bright people who are the fastest to call other people idiots.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Very true.
And I think we may be thinking of the same person there, avoiding politics. There's somebody who's very fast to call other people crazy.
Name calling is kind of, if you think about it, one of the more hurtful things you can do, but it's also sort of, in a lot of cases, the refuge of those who can't really put together a sound argument.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Usually the first fallback. When they don't have a comeback for your argument, then they'll go ad hominem and attack you rather than your issue.
Well, you're a butthead.
Yeah, I must pretty well put the end as a pretty good forum. People taking things personal that didn't need to be, because they couldn't. make their point
Which
any
one?
other way. Huh?
Which forum?
Oh.
I'm sorry.
Probably wouldn't know it, but I know at least 2 other people here too.
Well, I thought you were
Take a
describing
number.
the forum, and I just misunderstood. That's all.
Yeah.
I must admit that was something Creator Site was very, very good at. The level of discussion and lack of fighting an argument was incredible. You know, this is one of the reasons I was so proud of everyone in that forum. And
there was some really strong disagreements, but the civility was always there.
Absolutely. You treated the person with respect, even if you didn't treat their arguments with respect. You were allowed to argue with their points as viciously as you liked, but you stuck to the points, not the person.
I was never on that site, but I know that you all talk about it frequently. Was it a place where you talked almost always about technical issues, or was there also the sort of wide-ranging political discussions that go on places like Facebook?
I don't know. I don't think it ever went that direction. It was general SEO, marketing, human nature. You know, it was somewhat broader than just technical. But I don't recall ever seeing anything go political.
We avoided politics and religion as topics, but then again, politics tends to come up because, you know, we'll be talking about the latest bill that changes how the internet works. So there was certainly talk of legislation, there was talk of governmental regulation, but without it ever becoming absolutely a political or ideological discussion.
So what's the difference?
We talked a lot of theory as well as technical. We did reviews. There was a whole section which was called the Website Hospital, and one of the reasons we had that was that anyone could bring their website along, and anyone who had been helped without being an expert was still a good pair of eyes to run across somebody else's site, and it was an area where everyone could pay it forward.
I think we all agreed to the fact that technology moved at a different pace in Washington, D.C. than the rest of the country.
Charitably put, Bill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're still using tubes, you know.
Not only a different pace, Bill, but also sometimes a different direction. Sometimes it's going backwards rather than forward.
I used to love watching a committee meeting on C-SPAN where they would talk about how they wanted to regulate the internet, and you could tell they had no idea how to turn it off. The guy in charge now mentioned petitioning Bill Gates to change the internet around. It's like, not quite how it works.
Yeah. And it's a worrying thing sometimes because, of course, there's a lot of similarities between the thinking of politicians and the thinking of higher level judiciary. And they both tend to be lagging behind most people's experience of the modern age. They both tend to be a little bit backward looking, which is great for looking at case history, but is terrible when you're dealing with new technologies.
Those people with legal training, you can't trust them.
Boy, I know that's right.
Set them loose in a library of some kind. Have them go through documents.
I'd limit my lawyer to being slept with, and that's the only practice she's getting around me.
Mm-hmm.
But not a hell of a lot of that, you know, if the man's being honest.
Oh, are you in trouble?
Story of my life.
There's a lot of aspects of SEO that actually legal training is very good for helping you with. You know, the ability to weigh up sometimes conflicting rules and try and find the common ground and the safe path, I think, is an advantage in SEO. And I think legal training really does help you with that.
Law is an information technology based profession. it really does involve opening lots of books or opening lots of websites and databases. When I was in law school, I was a teaching assistant, and the professor I worked for was writing a book on evaluating natural resource damages using electronic databases like LexisNexis. And so that was like a couple of years before the World Wide Web, but I felt like I'd hit the World Wide Web a couple of years early.
Yeah.
Does LexisNexis still exist?
Yes, it does. It's very focused upon providing legal information and case law statutes. If you are a lawyer, it's a service that you want to subscribe to.
But initially, it was quite a lot broader based topically, wasn't it?
I had the impression it was a little bit like you could get news. Back when I was on CompuServe, I was also thinking about trying to get involved in LexisNexis. I never really got around to it, though.
I think they realized that having a narrow focus was their best movement forward. Because if you can get lawyers throughout the country to subscribe to it and rely upon it, you have a case you have to find similar facts to on another case, and research to do, you'll sit in front of a computer screen looking for that stuff.
You can find a lot of information online about laws and about court decisions, but I've never really thought about whether there was like some better tool, like apparently you're saying LexisNexis is. That's interesting.
Right.
I'm not a lawyer, so I've never.
With some of the case law, some of the books, sources of legal research, they've got built-in keywords that you know to use to look things up, give you shortcut finding what you're trying to find.
And you can do that better on LexisNexis than apparently than just with searches online.
There was a project recently that made me think about something that I hadn't thought about before, but it's how many cases, certainly of a certain kind, are generally sorted out of court. Particularly injury settlements and most suits of various kinds, most lawsuits do seem to be settled out of court. And of course, that means that the record on those cases is very, very incomplete.
And sometimes those get settled right on the courthouse steps, but they're still considered out of court.
Yeah.
And they're sealed often.
Yes.
So the parties don't talk about what happened.
Exactly that. And I think that is a major flaw, because it means that a huge amount of law isn't going into the case books, isn't going into the history of law. And I'm worrying that it's even becoming a majority of the most important cases.
Well, that's what makes courthouse settlement, the step settlement, so attractive. Is that let's just shut up, pay the guy, so we don't set a precedent because we have other vulnerabilities.
Well, it can also be a way to try to mitigate your expense, although you've invested a fair amount by that point.
That too, but I think more often it's really the case they just don't want to get a precedent on the books because they have another 200,000 clients out there that, armed with that, might follow a similar suit.
Sounds like a John Grisham model.
But I do think that there maybe should be a change where basically a settlement needs to be reached before a court date is set for it to be completely closed and the court not to be involved at all. Once the court is involved, I think they should have to get a record of any settlement reached. And it may be kept from the public, but it has to go into legal record.
Some courts have been doing things to expedite legal proceedings by requiring mediation before the court dates.
Yep.
So have mediators talk to each party and try to see if they can meet somewhere in the middle.
That's the way it is up in Salinas, because I was involved in a case up there, and we were required to go to an appointed mediator, who, of course, we had to pay as well.
No, of course.
But we were required to do that before we would even be afforded the opportunity to actually file a suit.
Yeah. Now, the thing of you having to pay them, I disagree with, because that's just another way of forcing poor people out of their position. I believe that legal representation, there should always be a completely free option.
There is a pro hoc vici appeal that you can make to the court to have your representation paid for.
Yeah. But I'm not sure that actually covers mediators.
I think it
should, but I'm not sure it does.
I think it does in cases where a person can't afford it and would otherwise not be able to benefit from mediation. A judge will consider offering that.
I got a somewhat off-topic question for you, Bill, as an attorney. Across the board, regardless whether we're talking criminal, civil, liability issue, or whatever, typically, in most instances, would you prefer a jury or a judge to decide your case, assuming you're the defendant or respondent?
One of the court I worked at was a highest level trial court in the state I worked in. And it was right next door to Chancery Court in Delaware, which doesn't have jury trials, and it has chancellors instead of judges. All the proceedings are written out, and Delaware is one of the top corporate legal places in the country.
Yep.
And most lawyers in the country study and learn from case law from Delaware because the mediators write the stuff out. So in that case, the judges are experts in corporate law, and they know it well. If you're in a situation where that expertise be helpful to you, it's maybe the venue you want to be in.
Yeah, that's a good answer. I've almost always would have said, 20, 30 years ago, I would rather have a jury. In most instances, because I think that you have, particularly if it's an instance where you do have a certain amount of culpability and you want to try to find a loophole or get off on doubt, then a jury is going to normally be easier than a judge. But I've got to the point now these days where I'm thinking, now, you know what? I don't have as much faith in human nature as I used to. So I'm thinking, I think I'd rather go with a judge in those instances where at least he's a real judge. He's not some county clerk who's been appointed as a magistrate or something with no real
administrative law judge or something.
There's a book that came out about 5-10 years ago called Reading People. A jury consultant who does delve into the psychology of asking certain types of questions in legal proceedings. And it's fascinating, the points that the author makes about how she would select certain people for a jury or try to block people from being on that jury.
It's a real art, yeah.
Yeah, it was a very good film, which was about, two jury selectors. And it was a good movie, but it did strike me that, wow, that's interesting. That's certainly going to affect justice. To go back to your question, Doc, I think it actually depends on cases a lot. Anything to do with technology, the internet, social media, I'd probably rather it was judged by people who'd actually used it.
Yeah, by that.
A jury of my peers. But I think there are cases where the letter of the law and responsibility for getting it right is far more important. And in those cases, I'd rather have a judge.
Well, yeah, if you're talking about the letter of the law, a judge is probably going to be your best bet.
Yeah.
And if you're talking about societal or cultural things, then I think that, like you say, people that have actually got some familiarity with it are going to be your better bet to go.
I have heard the chancellors from Chancery Court in Delaware say, look, if you two parties can make a decision that you're both happy with, you should do that, because if I'm the one making the decision, neither of you is going to be happy.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it.
Hi, my name is Solomon. Where's my sword?
I know salesmen who take the same approach to you. Their idea is that nobody should be happy with the deal. If somebody's happy with the deal, they won. The deal should basically make everyone satisfied but miserable, and that's when you know you've got a fair deal all round.
I might be wrong about this. Is there a fundamental difference between UK and US courts, where in the US it's very difficult to recover your defense costs if you've been sued, whereas in the UK, doesn't the loser automatically pay the costs of defense or plaintiff's costs?
It's not 100% automatic, but it's typical that if you lose the case, you pay all of the fees of both sides.
That really changes the dynamics a lot.
Yeah, it can certainly help squash an awful lot of trivial suits,
and
annoyance suits.
There's an upper level on the kind of awards you get as well. So for years, we didn't have lawyers who would operate on a no win, no fee, because the winnings just weren't enough for them to take a tiny percentage and make a living from that. Their costs might be higher than the amount you were awarded.
That's not the biggest difference between U.S. and UK courts.
Okay.
No.
The biggest difference is that
Ours can spell.
UK has barristers who are judges who will prosecute things, so ask questions. And the U.S. doesn't.
What did you call it? You cut out there for a sec.
Barristers.
Oh, barristers, yeah.
Yeah. We've got levels of lawyer, small claims, things like that. Yeah, ordinary lawyers can deal with. When it gets to Crown Court rather than Civil Court and County Court, you need a barrister. Much more expensive.
All I know about that is from watching UK legal dramas.
Yeah, my ex was an usher in the local courts, so I got to hear a lot of various stories.
Is it like a bailiff?
Yeah. A little less martial than some, but yeah. They'd originally actually doubled up. She'd originally gone into the courts working security, and then they'd split the two functions. So there were still security guards, but they don't touch anything to do with the courts. And then there's the ushers who, their main job is simply to make sure everyone gets into court on time, who's sat outside waiting, and to answer questions of people and direct people to the right court, rather than anything security related.
I supervise people who are court clerks who would go in and take the notes, and swear the witnesses in, do things like that. And sometimes you would be sitting in the middle of the room with a bunch of guards on one side of the room and a bunch of prisoners on the other side of the room in chains and so on. You were in the middle, not always feeling safe.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, it's quite different. Most of the courts here that deal with cases where there's already a prisoner, there are cells beneath, and often the person will be in a cell. They will be brought up to the court, and they will go back to their cell.
And there are passageways behind the courtrooms. If you're walking to the court, sometimes you are interrupted by sheriffs escorting people through the passageways back there too.
Yeah.
So not necessarily a safe situation. I remember one day walking past a jury room and hearing, help me, and coming across a sheriff and a bailiff who had just lost sort of a standoff between a prisoner who was trying to escape.
Wow.
And they couldn't put they were trying to put handcuffs on and failing miserably. So I came over and sat down on the guy and helped put the handcuffs on him.
Yeah. Well, again, you know, difference. English, even our criminals are very polite. You know, they'll wait patiently in the queue for their turn to escape.
I can't tell how tongue-in-cheek you're being. I'm waiting for you to talk about your ex-wife, Ammon, and bring up the phrase "she who must be obeyed," making you rumple.
No, she wasn't like that at all. It was the trickiest part of the job was in always being polite to everybody and treating everyone as innocent and responsible, even when you're dealing with cases of paedophilia.
Yeah, that would be hard.
I was
1 day a week, which was family law cases, and that was almost all cases of abuse of various kinds. And you know, there's this room full of people who are accused of these crimes to children, and you treat them all, yes, sir, would you mind coming this way, sir? And mean it. You know, you treat everyone with respect.
I was responsible for processing all the paperwork and documentation and scheduling of appeal cases from lower courts to my court. And I would remember the names of the appellants because all their documentation was at my desk.
Uh-huh.
It used to disturb them when they'd come up to the counter and I'd walk over and say, "Hi, Mr. Smith," or whatever. And it's like someone knows my name. Oh, no.
Yeah.
They didn't like that.
It probably felt quite uncomfortable, particularly since this was appeals, and therefore some of them had been getting used to being referred to by a number for a while. There's a lot of the judicial system post conviction that is dehumanizing and not using your name deliberately. And so, yeah, it probably felt a little bit strange to them.
And not quite as bad as it would if you called them by name and then chuckled. Or maybe shake your head, sadly.
Well, this all brings back really bad memories for me of the prison system.
We've been in that hallway in the back, haven't we, Terry?
More times than I want to think about.
Oh boy!
I was going through my search console for a client, and for 2 or 3 months in a row now, I've seen in the HTML improvements where Google is saying they're duplicate titles, and they're pages that are 301 to each other.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, they have duplicate titles because they're the same freaking page.
Yeah.
Is that in the new search console?
Pardon me?
Is that the new search console?
No, I don't touch anything new until they absolutely twist my arm and tell me there's nothing else I can use.
I'm with you.
You know, Terry, he doesn't like to upgrade. He still uses Microsoft.
Well, in the case of Search Console, I'm right there with him.
I must admit, that's always been an issue and I've had problems in the past trying to track bad links. If you've got a genuine negative SEO attack going on, there's sometimes a real issue where if they are passing those links to a redirect, you will not be able to find them. The URLs that console will be telling you are where the redirect scripts are and without the parameters, and you cannot find the link.
Yeah, I was just wondering if anyone else has seen that before. I've seen it just for the last 3 months or so.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a known issue that they don't always handle 301s very well.
I would agree with that. But these are probably 15 years old. I mean, we're going back to 301ing static HTML files to PHP files. So you kind of wonder why they're all of a sudden interested in all these pages that haven't been around for a decade.
Because the links are still around.
That could be because there are a lot of links, and these pages the names have changed a few times.
Yeah.
That maybe mean they're kind of trying to fix the link graph, smooth it out some.
We've got a couple of Johnny-come-latelys, so let's bring those in. Because I haven't met Ken before, so Ken first. Hi, Ken. How are you? What do you do?
I'm doing well. Thanks for asking. And I'm just your basic internet marketer. That's about it.
Is there such a thing as a basic internet marketer?
Well, but he has a green screen too.
Okay, I'll give you a little bit more. 15 years internet marketing and SEO primarily. And that's about it. I think the last time I was on a hangout with Doc was probably 2 years ago with Wissam. And if you guys know Wissam,
Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard that is the average time it takes to recover.
From Wissam, yeah, that's about it, man. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I'm the one who introduced Wissam to SEO back in the day. So to give you a little history, been doing this quite
Yeah,
quite a
well,
long time.
thanks for that, buddy.
Anything for the industry.
Now he just shows up his pool. He shows up his pool in the backyard and stuff. We all just go. My wife stopped talking to me for a week after that. She's like, "Where's my pool? I don't got a pool. What the hell?"
Well, you got to throw that international in the front of your name.
How are you, Dave?
Oh, you don't want to know. How about that? We'll just go with awesome. Yeah. Oh,
Where's your sofa gone? What's going on?
sofa. Oh no, I'm not. I'm on the chair today. Got the chair going on.
Yeah, major change. What's going
No
on?
monkey. No monkey though. No monkey. Monkey's upstairs. He took my spot in the bedroom. I sleep on the couch now. So yeah, that's it. But yeah, whatever. I Windows crash or died or whatever, and then after many hours of homework, turns out that the 1803 update for Windows 10 has just been a complete cluster muck for all kinds of different things. Interesting enough, so I ended up having to reset, go back to Windows and reinstall everything. And then I just got off an hour and a half forensic call that was full of wonderful Drupal developers and people who thought you didn't need to redirect all the pages on the site and wondered why all the traffic was gone. Lots of fun.
Yeah.
No, because on a 2,000 page site, it's going to be way too much of a server load. So just redirect the hub pages. Don't worry about the rest. No, it's going no, Terry. It's a server load. It's a server load issue. That's what he told the boss. You can't do that. It's a server load. It'll slow down the site. Then of course I found a couple hundred PDFs that other people have been scraping for years, and then a whole mail dot subdomain of 900 pages of Google index that had no reason to be there, was duplicating the site and everything else. But don't worry, that server load on that HD axis is a real big problem.
Yeah, because sites running a couple of thousand pages.
Well,
Can't
that's
keep
huge.
up.
Yeah. Unlike the other one I was working on where they redirected 2 million pages. Well, those guys must be idiots.
Did you ever hear about the case? The case I used to prove that duplicate content was a complete nonsense.
Oh yeah, well, this is a crawl budget thing and confusing Google thing. You know what I mean? Like,
Well, we took a client who had a 50,000 item database of vinyl records and albums, and we turned it into a 5 million page site.
oh yeah, why not? Sure, easy.
Everything was indexable in different ways. You could see.
Again, I never think of a duplicate content as a penalty like the idiots in the mythology world do. It's just more like you're wasting precious space and ability to control your site and your traffic and your usability and everything else. That's where I got the issue with it.
Yeah.
I'm not the whole mythology. It's a penalty crap. It's just exactly. Why does it exist? And when the person I'm in a meeting with goes, I didn't even know it was there. That's there's bigger systemic problems. I think that's what it came down to at the end. It's like a lot of things end up systemic problems with how the business is operating. How the left hand's talking to the other. Like even that other forensic, the bigger forensic, when I was doing the same thing. Left hand's not talking to the right hand, and things start falling apart everywhere. And which becomes systemic. Well, I use both hands because it's that big, but anyway, so yeah, it's just been a hell of a day.
The one I've been seeing recently is a lot more discussions of let's call them copywriters because they like to call themselves copywriters. They're post writers for money, and let's face it, for pennies. But a lot of them are, how much original content do I need, and what's the format?
How is that a question? That's not even a question. It's supposed to be all original.
How much original content does Amazon have?
None.
Right. How much does Google have?
None, but it depends on what you're doing, I guess. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
It all depends on
how
come on, it depends. It always depends in this business. It all depends.
It always depends.
It's situational.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean? Yeah, exactly. You copy some great piece of literature and you misspell every word. Congratulations, you've got an original piece of writing. But it's not worth anything more.
Kenneth, I swear to God, I probably lose 90% of the audits I quote because most of the people who come to me are looking for some push button, an audit's just a thing you stick in a tool. What do you mean? It's just what Whereas, to me and to anyone who's with half a brain, it's all dependent on, what's the situation? What are you trying to get out of it? What's the market? What's the query spaces, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It all depends on what the hell you're trying to do it for. And as soon as you start talking that, people go, what do you mean? Whoa, that's a big number. Okay, I'll get back to you.
And it goes into the never to be heard from again file.
Which is fine, you know what I mean? I know that's coming most of the time when because somebody on Facebook referred me or something. I'll say, thanks for that. Appreciate it.
I mean, that's why I don't ever try and sell my stuff through groups and things like that.
I never tried to. I haven't had to sell anything for ages, dude. It's just but leads come your way, and if somebody send them to you, you can't just tell them to fuck off,
Anyone coming to me that way would have such sticker shock.
Yeah. No, I agree. That's generally how it goes in my world.
Yeah, I mean, because they're used to the tools and the automation and the low end stuff, and the idea that I will talk to you for an hour to sort out what you need. That's
one of my clients sent me a referral a month back, right? And I started talking to this guy through email, and I'm like, what do you need? What are you after? He's like, well, let me get back to you. We're going to run some audits, and then I'll tell you what we need. And I was like, no, we can't do it that way. You're not going to run some audits and tell me what I'm supposed to be doing. We're not going to get along too well that way.
I just had to turn down a national client. Same thing. I mean, they had this is what we're going to do. This is the process that we're going to use for SEO. I'm like, well, why would you even consider hiring me if you already have your guidelines that you think are proper?
Go
but they
hire
were
some
way off
monkeys,
base.
some interns, get some monkeys and some interns, and have them go do it. Like, hello.
Exactly.
You've got nephews somewhere. Hire him.
Right.
Yeah, right.
That's
I
it.
like that. I'm going to remember that one.
It's a bit like when I see all these people saying, "Oh, I'm going to use Yoast because everyone else does." Well, yeah. Think about that for a minute.
Oh no, come on now. How about the classic that's already got Yoast when you come on board and they start telling you, well, it's got this red line in here saying this isn't good and this red thing here that's nice. It's like, oh God, please, no, really, no. Okay, first off, that's going to be $100 an hour to teach you that Yoast is crap, and then we'll go from there.
Well, I wouldn't even say it's crap, but
Well,
what
it's
I'm
not.
saying
You just
is,
got to understand how to use it. How's that?
congratulations. It's going to give you the same tips it's giving to 50% of the rest of the sites out there in your niche.
Exactly.
Can you turn the tips off in there? I'm pretty sure you can.
It's giving you the exact same advice it's giving everybody else.
That's why I love it. It's so easy to compete with.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so life's fun. Google keeps surprising me.
Yeah.
Like, I find things are really slow to catch up these days. Like if you're changing like titles and metas and adding content to pages to beef them out or whatever, I'm finding it's a lot slower reaction time than it used to be. I don't know if that's just me and some of the stuff I'm working on, but
It seems slow. I agree.
yeah, it's not like used to get stuff used to happen in like within a week. Now it's like a couple of weeks.
Now it's like decaffeinated caffeine.
It's decaffeinated. They rolled that one back. Said, fuck it, this. Yeah, I'm pretty sure caffeine was just there so they could get the voice search and stuff going, buddy. It had nothing to do with the regular index. No, they didn't give it any processing power.
But the next update is going to roll it back even further. They're calling it Dummingbird.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, no, things seem longer to stick and take effect than they used to, for sure. I understand the web keeps getting bigger and whatever, but it just still seems like, it's a lot more percolation going on. And I'm a guy who doesn't like to do too many things at once because you can end up with a false negative kind of effect. So you end up waiting a lot longer than you used to.
One thing helped me too hurt.
There's always so many things going on at once in Google that, scheduling the various tests so that they're not interfering with each other is becoming a headache.
Oh, I had a new one in the meeting today. Someone mentioned AMP. And I said, well, we're all kind of just waiting to see if Google keeps it, doesn't keep it, what they do with it, and so on and so on. We're all kind of on the fence about it because somebody was very bullish about it. He'd read it somewhere in a tech thing. And I was like, well, did you remember when they made meta descriptions longer for about a month and a half? and you paid someone a whole bunch of money to go running around and change all your meta descriptions. How's that money looking right now?
But actually, that was only a display issue in the first place, and this is something. Bill will remember.
Yeah, but a lot of people jumped on it. A lot of people paid some monkey somewhere to go and start changing them all, and
Well, this is the thing a lot of people don't realise. We used to have a guy called Ron Carnell in the Creator Site forums, and he used to put entire Shakespearean sonnets into those descriptions sometimes, so that whichever line somebody quoted, it would come up with the appropriate snippet.
Yeah,
and even back then, 2004, you could have any length of meta description you wanted. It would certainly process at least 1,000 words, and it would find the 150 characters within it that most closely represented your keywords.
So the trick is making sure you include in your meta description things that people find engaging, find persuasive, might click through if they see as a snippet in the search result. And if it's just copying text from your page, that may not be it. Or you may need to rewrite the content.
I was going to say, that's a good signal that your page sucks.
Yeah.
You can't engage them that way. Anyone ever seen this? I was looking at something today. Somebody had a Google site verification after the head closed, but before the body started. I've never seen that. Is that a viable thing? It just didn't look right to me.
It looks like somebody may have just misplaced it that was supposed to be in the head.
That's a WordPress, though. I don't even know how they got it in there. I was like, oh. Still tracking it down.
Probably don't know how they got it in there either.
Yeah.
Let's face it, there's a lot of WordPress developers who aren't really developers.
You know what's funny? So, I was talking in the meeting earlier, just before I came in here, and 10 years ago, a lot of forensic work, 2010 at least, 8 years ago, a lot of the forensic work was, crappy SEOs, crappy link builders, and things like that had screwed a site. I'd say 90% of the time now it's developers. Like SEOs, there's not as much dodgy SEO, I guess you could call it, as there used to be. Like a lot of the things I'm finding now forensically are development side issues.
I think there's an element to that. I think there's tides to these things, and I think at the moment the cheap SEO that people are buying is either the link building or the guest posting and crap content, which don't create many errors. They create a lot of spam, but they don't create many errors, and therefore we are only seeing developer stuff.
Right, thin content could be an issue on a site, but it's not a development issue.
Yeah. I mean, I still see a lot of people who have targeted the wrong keywords, and they're getting a lot of traffic that's not converting because, it's completely the wrong kind of traffic for them. They haven't thought it through. They haven't tested it. So that's still an SEO issue.
And if you're targeting the wrong keywords, you're maybe missing market gaps that you should be going after with your business. And failure to do that means you're not making the money you should be making.
Yep.
That happens.
And, there's still a lot of cases where the cheap SEO people are buying is bad content. Oh, Bill, they've got LSI keywords. Look, it uses lots of synonyms. It's bound to rank, right?
Right, that's what it says in the definitive guide to rank rating.
But it won't throw up any error.
I wrote that fucking thing.
I think that there's actually even an interesting thing to think about when people call themselves website developers. To me, a developer is somebody who legitimately writes code. I mean, truly does a fair amount of engineering work. And then there's a whole group of people, and this includes me. I could write code. I have written code, but frankly, I don't want to write code. So I build websites. I'm very careful to call myself a website builder, along with really my main thing is I want to do SEO for people, but I'll build websites or I'll maintain them, but I don't develop them. I don't go out and do a lot of programming.
I think a developer also takes the business into account and decides whether to use AdSense, use their own ad stuff.
Sure.
But even Terry, you know what I mean? Like
components of a website and doesn't just go and get plugins.
Yeah, but consider the guy who knows how to manage a WordPress site to a guy who knows how to manage a server. You know what I mean? I think that becomes the difference. I mean, like I was even asking, there's a couple of blips on the radar with the crawls and stuff, and I was like, I mean, I need your developers. I need you to have like a nice intranet set up, and I need your developer if they update PHP on the server, if they update like the PHP INI, if they update the Apache, if they update the MySQL or something. I want to know about that because when I'm trying to forensically figure something out, I need to know every little thing that happened. But like he's saying though, so many guys are just sort of like website builders, not actual developers or guys that understand server side and all the ramifications therein,
And in the market I'm in, you don't need an engineer to develop a website for you or to build a website for you. It's almost all healthcare service providers, straightforward stuff.
As a small business owner, you're often the accountant, the salesman, the marketer, the web developer, the web designer. You wear multiple hats. It's not uncommon.
Right.
My clients typically are in that kind of size range or maybe a little bit bigger. And so they just need somebody to take care of the website or to create the website. They don't
Quite
really
often, and not to say in your case, right, Tim, but a lot of web builders don't really understand web marketing in SEO.
Well,
They
that's
think,
one of the,
but they ain't got clue one.
well, so that's one of the advantages I can give them. Yeah, that's true.
Looking at 20 years of groups and forums, Terry, a lot of SEOs don't know SEO.
Wow.
Well, that's because they couldn't do anything else, and then social media came along, and they all went that way.
Well, I'll give you,
Oh, I can do this.
I do have a lot of folks that come to us with websites which provide no SEO benefit, and almost even really very little conversion or marketing benefit, but they're pretty, or they look pretty, and that's what really mattered to them when the client first had it built.
Those are graphic designers. They aren't even web designers. To me, they're graphic designers. They have one place in the they have one role, and that's to make a pretty picture for someone who knows how to build a website to work off of. That's it. They don't really think about trying to sell something. Oh, heaven be, you mean people buy stuff on the internet? Who would have thought?
So anyway, that's a little bit of a tangent from what we were talking about, but it just cracks me up. I'm always very careful to not claim to be a website developer. In fact, as we're having this conversation, I'm thinking about, well, Crum, what did I say on our website the last time I rebuilt it? Does it say website building? Does it say website design? Crum, I'm going to have to go look at it now.
There are sadly people who, if they add something to a website, regard themselves as a website developer, even if the way that they added that thing to a site was to hit the install button in the admin panel of WordPress. And yeah, it's a misuse of title, but I think any SEO is used to people misusing titles.
What's interesting is that anybody can hang out a shingle and get into this business and make claims, and it's up to the market to protect itself by understanding and asking good questions. And that might sound like I'm leading into a call for regulation and licensing or something. No,
But it's always buyer beware. There's lots of unregulated industries that's the same. It's buyer beware. Like people, it's up to the consumer to figure out what you're going to pay for. Like
I didn't officially have a job title for the first 7 or 8 years of promoting websites.
Yeah,
I missed one.
I'm not sure I heard the first part of what you said, Bill.
I said I didn't have a job title for the first 7 or 8 years of promoting websites.
yeah.
Necessarily
Just introduce him. This is Bill. He's Bill.
Well, and I think for like many years we just called ourselves internet marketers, anyways, because again, back to the hats thing, you end up doing a lot of different elements.
Yeah.
Internet marketer, or here in my small town, we just say internet stuff. What do you do? Internet stuff.
Well, I hated the post-Moz period where, a lot of people abandoned the SEO word, and people suddenly thought that, me calling myself an internet marketing consultant was part of that. And, Bill will tell you, I've been an internet marketing consultant since the 90s. The one thing that's never been my job title is SEO.
So the second site I built, the first 3 weeks, I pretty much focused on information architecture, not SEO. Said, okay, I'll make sure all the right words and all the right things are covered with this site. And it's going to do incredibly well for search because we've got everything we want on there. Well, the only thing we didn't get was the attorney I was building the site for came up to me and said, Bill, I don't like family law. I don't want to do divorces anymore. Change that, could you? I said, what kind of law do you like? He said, corporate law. I said, okay, I can build a corporate law page instead. And he got a bunch of corporate clients from that page, from changing that. Much better than divorce. He enjoyed it.
It may be, in fact, I think it's beginning to be the case that your website may help you to rank, but it may not be the only thing, or eventually maybe not even the main thing that people see and decide to call you from, as opposed to knowledge panels or some other Google thing.
It depends on the market to an extent, Tim, but I'd say that's always been the case. I deal with a lot of things where the website is part of the process, but the sale is always determined over the phone or in a face-to-face meeting. I meet clients where, you know, these deals are tens of thousands of pounds minimum, sometimes a lot more, and you know those do not happen online.
I understand. The point I was making was a little bit different, but I certainly accept and agree with the idea that once they get to a typical client site, there's still going to be either an order placed or a phone call placed or something where they have to do the close.
Yeah.
I'm talking more about how they choose to call your client instead of the other person.
Well, even there, I would argue that as far back as the 90s, this wasn't just the website. I was doing a lot to influence. The thing of, you know, making sure that there's a lot of purchases where somebody is going to ask their friends. There's a lot of things where they're going to ask their colleagues. There's a lot of searches done on behalf of other people, particularly things that the elderly buy. They will often ask their son, their daughter, their nephew to go and find this thing for them. And that's always been there. And I think there's an element where a lot of people didn't see it, but I'd say it's always been there.
Yep. I'm talking in terms of search engines and search engine marketing, I suppose. But
I think there was a time when it was harder for us to measure it, Tim. But I think it's always been there. And I've always focused on those additional touch points. Partly that's because I've been lucky enough to deal with some very large clients, and I've seen the difference it makes when they're running a TV commercial campaign at the same time.
TV can make a big difference. There's no question about it.
It's all about those multiple touch points, the multiple reassurances.
Well, yeah, brand impression, favorable brand impressions, and the recurrence.
Brand lift.
Yes. And, you know, one of my favorite pay-per-click examples was always about that, where what we focused on was looking for, I was working for a mortgage company, and we focused on the property searches, and we made sure our brand was coming up everywhere for these property searches. Their competitors weren't, because nobody's buying a mortgage. You can't get any business out of this.
I've seen companies go too far with the brand, where they focus so much on the brand that they don't focus on the non-brand brand.
Yeah.
And that's a problem too.
You've still got to convince people that the product is right. But I do think that it's more common for people to underplay brand than overplay it, except where they don't really have a USP, and that the brand is supposed to be their USP. And do you know what? That doesn't work. I think a good brand is built on your USP. A good brand isn't itself a USP.
I worked for a website for a brand that was being outranked by people selling that brand's products on places like eBay. And they were so poorly optimized for the brand, they weren't ranking highly for it.
Uh-huh.
And the only time they mentioned the brand was in non-text-based images.
Yeah.
That was the only place they put on the website what the brand was.
That reminds me, though, of a very positive example of brand, again, from Creator Site back in the day, when somebody was talking about Innocent, the company Innocent, they do Innocent smoothies. They were talking about their copywriting and how they loved the tone of voice of the site. And it was a major selling point. The site wasn't very well optimized. The product isn't a sexy product. There's nothing really that sets it that much apart from anybody else's smoothies. accept their brand and their language, and they were very, very good with it. And it made people feel right. It made people feel the connection to this company, and that's branding done well.
Well, like people that sell whirly squirrels, you know, they just promote their whirly squirrels everywhere.
Where do you get one of those? Hey,
I don't know, but I'm expecting a link on the event page to get one of these whirly squirrels. I'm telling
Ah, they're exclusive.
God damn it!
I'm talking about advertising on TV.
I don't think it would survive the shipping from England, anyways. It'd be a dead squirrel and a feeder.
You got the monkey that kicked you out of bed.
One of the mistakes I think I see with TV advertising is where, especially more in prime time, where the ad is clever. It tells a story, and the story is usually interesting and amusing. But people, it's almost more about entertaining people than it is about the brand. And if you ask them 6 months later, they'll remember the ad campaign, but not the brand that it represented.
or exactly what it was about.
So,
Yeah.
like the campaign "Where's the Beef" many years ago, there aren't very many people that can tell you what brand that was for.
Yeah,
Wendy's, wasn't it? Wendy's.
It was, yeah, but not many people remember that. I think those of us warped people that are in marketing remember it. There's one now for an insurance company that is we know a lot of things because we've seen a lot of things, and they have all these bizarre accidents that they covered, you know, trucks catching on fire or whatever. And I happen to remember, because I like the commercials right now, that it's for Allstate. But if you ask people a year from now, I bet they'll be more likely to remember that slogan and the commercials than they will which insurance company it was for.
but yeah, that's a near miss in branding, in my opinion, because ideally that message should be both memorable and so closely tied to that brand that you'll never forget it.
Exactly.
I'll tell you who got it right. Compare the market with their Compare the Meerkat. You weren't going to forget the brand. Even though it's cute meerkats and all kinds of things to do with that, the play on words meant you couldn't forget the brand it was associated with.
I'm not sure I understand which one you're referring to.
It's a UK thing. I don't think we even have it over here that I've seen. I don't. I was watching a lot of feeds from the World Cup that were through England, so I'm quite used to that. So a lot of the meerkats.
If you run those searches, if you search for Compare the Meerkat, you'll find it on YouTube, and you'll see what I'm on about. But they were running for years, and a very successful campaign. I was dealing with another major insurance company. I had a meeting with them the day after that ad came out, and it was all that could be talked about at that meeting. Everyone had seen it. Everyone thought it was a brilliant ad, and it had our work cut out for us.
Okay, interesting. I'll tell you another one that is like this now that we're on a roll here with it. Remember the Super Bowl ad, oh gosh, probably 20 years ago, about cat herding? It was two cowboys, and they're herding like thousands of cats, like they would cattle, and they're talking about, I'm from a whole generation, I mean, from a whole family of cat herders. Does anybody remember those? No. Okay. Well, then.
Well, you've got two Canadians and a UK guy, so
yeah.
You're only looking to bill there.
Well, but since some of you are technologists that worked in high tech or big tech, I thought you might remember. It was for a big 8 accounting firm that does consulting. It was Anderson or one of those. I don't remember which one, but it was. I tell you what, it's the kind of thing where even today people look that up on YouTube if they want to make a joke about program management, which is what the commercial is really talking about. It was about cat herding, and that's what you do when you're a program manager and all that. But if you ask people who do remember the ad which brand it was for, most of them would remember. I'm not sure I do anymore.
I've noticed the time there. We are well past the hour, so I think we'll need to wrap up for the week. Do you want to wrap us up, Bill?
Sure. give everybody a chance to say thank you and goodbye and a thought for the day. David?
Thank you. Goodbye. And if you're having issues, it's your developer's fault. So. Don't update Windows. But yeah, that's it. That's it. And of course, I guess tomorrow, Ammon will be joining us and some other folks, and we're gonna go look at the Google Raiders guide apparently.
And it's back online?
Yeah, it's back up. It's back up, and regardless, Jennifer already had her big write up anyway, so I'm just lazy and I use the crib notes. So we're gonna pick that apart tomorrow.
Terry?
Yep. See you later.
See you later. Tim?
Actually, I do have a thought for the day. Here in the U.S. anyway, it's Taco Tuesday. And my thought for the day is it's a good thing that I don't have to hunt for my food because I don't even know where tacos live.
It is Taco Tuesday. It's
Dave just got it. Terry's wondering what was.
Oh no, I got it. It was just painful.
Well, you chase the taco vans. You know, it's a migratory herd of taco vans, and you chase those.
Oh, okay, all right. That's it. Happy trails.
Yeah, and for me, thanks for joining us, everyone. Nice to see you. Hopefully, see you another week. And thought for the day. Well, for me, it's over. It's the UK. We love it. Our day's over. Take care, everyone. Bye.
Bye now. Night.